Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, the Financial Wake-Up Call for Founders. My name is Bontu Galata, and I'm an entrepreneur ecosystem strategist at ATV. And I work closely with our entrepreneurs and small business clients on their business growth and financial strategies. And I'm also pleased to host today's webinar for you. So I'm based in Calgary, but I'm curious to know where everyone is joining us from. So please let us know where you're joining us from in the chat, so you can share the town or city that you're joining us from. And also feel free to include the business that you have. We would love to know that. And I also want to give a quick shout out to our team in Athabasca. They're having a viewing party with one of my colleagues, Cliff Turner. So hello, we can't see you, but we know that you're having a great time. So thank you for joining us in Athabasca as well. So to get us started, I would like to share what reconciliation means to me before I read the land recognition. So as many of you know, my lineage is from an indigenous nation in Ethiopia. So I come from the Oromo Nation, one of the largest African nations to roam the earth. And we have a very similar history of assimilation to a culture and a way of life that was different than ours. So one of the ways that I'm learning about reconciliation is through the Indigenous peoples of Canada and studying about the certain codes of ethics, which the Inuit refer to as malachite. It means things that had to be done, and it has 4 principles: work for the common good, respect all living things, preserve harmony and balance, and last but not least, plan and prepare for the future. The Oromo refer to this as safu, so it's a way of promoting moral and ethical order in society. And today, many of our Indigenous elders would say that we have lost our ways. So reconciliation for me is about finding those ways and connecting with my own Indigenous roots. And I've also had the honor to receive many teachings from various Blackfoot elders and acknowledge the many Black and racialized ancestors that were brought over by force and humiliation. So it is an honor to recognize the land that we are on the same way that my ancestors would have done. We acknowledge the land on which we are all gathered is the traditional territory of the Treaty 6, 7, and 8 nations of Alberta, and acknowledge Treaty 4 and 10. We acknowledge the land as an act of reconciliation that honors the authentic history of Turtle Island and the original people of this territory. And now it's my pleasure to introduce you to today's speaker and topic. So the creator of the Cashflow Canvas, Tanya Woods Richardson, is a nationally recognized expert on small business, budgets, and founder finance, who just also happens to be the founder and CEO of Nail the Numbers, Canada's go-to financial training agency for entrepreneurs. Her 30-plus years immersed in entrepreneurship has afforded her the opportunity to collaborate with countless banks, credit unions, developmental lenders, and small business champions towards strengthening the minds and the bottom lines of Canadian founders. Today, she's sharing a boot camp with us that aims to alert entrepreneurs like yourselves in the audience to the reality of your financial situation. So not to scare you, but to kickstart your brain into action. So it's how our brains are wired. And it won't spring into action until it sees the threat. And as founders, you need to be equipped with the tools and training to construct businesses that are financially solid. So she'll cover the following to do just that. So first is the current rate of return you've been making on your business investment, how much the business really needs to pay you every month, and lastly, how much you need for your retirement. So if you don't have your notes, pen and paper, digital note, you need to get it ready right now. And before we get started, just a quick note to the audience as well. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please enter those into the chat at any time, and Tanya will address them throughout and at the end of the webinar. And following today's presentation, you will receive a follow-up email within a few days with information on how you can access the recording and additional follow-up materials. So thank you, Tanya, for sharing your knowledge with us today. I'm super excited to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Thanks, Bontu. Really love being here, especially for this wake-up call. And I know we don't have a long time today together. We have a little bit of time, but I want to go through those 3 eye-openers and why they're so key for you to better understand. So again, thank you everybody for being here. I know we've got the Athabasca Chamber, we've got a BDC watch party going on. So hey to all of you guys sitting out there, thanks for being here. ATB, thank you always for having me back. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So thank you for allowing me to get my soapbox out and share this message with all of you brave founders who my gratitude and appreciation goes out to all of you for actually braving a conversation around numbers, because I know that many of you would likely probably prefer to go get a root canal than actually sit through an hour of talking about finances. So I applaud you for having the courage to be here. Now, speaking of courage, I'm going to be completely transparent. This is probably my least favorite format of presenting because I can't see you and I can't gauge your body language. I don't know if you've fallen off a chair. I don't know if you're still with me, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. So I am going to ask of you a favor, and that is to engage with me in chat. I've got my chat open. I can see you here. So if you're hearing this request of me, can you just put a yes or a Y in the chat so I know that you're going to be as engaged as possible in this, because it's really hard for me to speak to myself for a whole hour on screen. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate it. Let's get a couple more yeses. Rochelle, thank you. And one more. Okay. Oh, Athabasca Watch Party. Thank you, Clive. And Greg. And Greg, I just want to give you a shout out. You showed up so powerfully right away on our chat saying you're here to wake up. So really appreciate that engagement. Thank you. Woo! All right. Okay. So today, maybe just a little bit of background here. And Bontu, thanks for that introduction. But high level, I've been almost everything in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. I've been an investor, a lender, an educator. I have been a mentor. I've been a judge, not in the courts, but on multiple business plan competitions and pitches. I've been at all. But most importantly, outside of being a mom, I am an entrepreneur. I'm a founder just like you. You that are watching, I know what you have been through and what you continue to go through. Because let's face it, the challenges never end. They just get different, right? So in all of that, I'm sharing that with you because I've had 8 businesses. I started my first one when I was 18. I was a long time ago, and it was when entrepreneurship was a dirty word, right? My dad and my mom both wanted me to go back and work in a job in the legal industry and make sure that education was getting paid for. But entrepreneurship was in my blood, so I started my first business at 18. And I've had 8 businesses since. And I share that with you because some have been wildly successful, like that first business. It was actually a catering business that was catering to fashion designers across Canada. So all those fashion shows, that was my business that came in to do that at 18. So that was huge. And I ended up selling that one. But there were other businesses that petered out. And then there was actually one business that went bust in a big, big way. I lost a lot of money. And more importantly, wasn't just my money I lost, but I lost money of angels and I lost money of friends and family. So I know what it feels like to go under. And it was through that failure, actually, that I probably learned some of the most valuable lessons in finance that school they would never be able to teach me those things. And that's what I'm here to share with you today. So I'm sharing that with you because I want you to know that I come from a place of authenticity, not an accountant, not CRA. I'm one founder speaking to you, right, to share with you some of these lessons. So hopefully that you can circumvent them and find your way around them so you don't have to make those costly mistakes that I did. So that is why we're doing the Wake Up Call Challenge today. Now, as Bontu said, we're going to have 3 big eye openers. One is your ROI that the business has been paying you. 2 is how much do you really need to be paid? How much does the business need to be paying you? And 3 is what is your retirement shortfall? And before I cover off on those things, I actually just really want to take a moment and cover off the landscape of our financial situation here in the country. And again, not to intimidate you, but to inspire you into action. So before I do that, can you please come into the chat And I usually have a real rule of 3. I need 3 people to respond before I move to the next slide. And I'm stubborn, so I'll just warn you. But I want to hear from you as to why you started your business. There's no right or wrong answer here, but why did you start your business? Let's pull it up in the chat. And Cliff, if you're out there, get your audience engaged and get some answers out there. Put the question out to your group. Here we go. Rule of 3. 3 answers. Why did you start your business? I can wait all day. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, to help teachers. I love that, Rochelle. Thank you, John, for ensure joy and income. I love it. And Elaine, I hope I have that right. Why not? LOL. Too funny. Okay. Thank you, the 3 of you, for showing up so powerfully. I appreciate that. All right. So a lot of people, and then there's Cliff. Sorry, because there was a need in Athabasca. I love it. Didn't want to work for others, work really hard. I might as well work on a problem that I truly care about. Okay, something in my blood. Okay, thank you guys. I really appreciate you engaging like that. So we usually hear those answers, right? And I love that John added to get income, right? So oftentimes it's about because we found there was a different way or a better way of doing something. We thought that maybe we could make an impact. And some of us are actually thinking about, hey, there might be an opportunity to make some money here. That is the why, right? For many of us. So let's just park that for a second. I'm going to come back to that in a moment. And I just want to show you, I'm showing you this slide because this is the state of Canadians overall right now when it comes to their personal finances. So I'm sharing this to let you know that you're not alone if you've been feeling financially fatigued and struggling, right? So in our country right now, we have a $13.4 trillion deficit for our retirement needs come 2050. The number one trend that is fueling that deficit is entrepreneurship, because we're barely bringing home enough money to cover off our savings, spending, earning, sharing, and our taxes, right? Let alone setting money aside for our investments. This is why CPP goes up every year. This is why CRA is now charging sole proprietors CPP every year, right? Because that retirement deficit is so big. We are, as Canadians, spending $1.87 for every dollar that we earn. We are the worst developed country in the world with respect to this spending habit. And as long as I've been teaching founders about numbers and personal finance, this number continues to go up despite there being more education and knowledge than ever on personal finances. So we got to keep in mind that number. We're saving 5.7% of our income. This has gone up actually through COVID. It used to be 3%. Now we're at 5.7. In 1980, we were at 20%. Canadians were saving 20% of what they brought home. The average consumer debt per Canadian, now this went down after COVID, but it is gone back up now with the economy that we're currently in. So this was 23,000 right after COVID. It's gone back up. I think it's about 27 again, back up to 27,000, but I'm not exactly sure on that number. But definitely, as you've probably been feeling, more and more people are turning to debt to get through their month-to-month payments. 46% of Canadians were $200 away from insolvency pre-COVID. And this is why our government needed to rush in with the benefits, right, that it did through that pandemic. 28% of Canadians are what we call or underbanked, meaning they can't access a bank account, right? Or they can't access the credit that's attached to a bank account if they are able to access a bank account. Like, just think about that for a second. 28%. Almost 30% of Canadians are in that situation. And then 2 of 10 Canadians could access $1,000 of cash in the event of an emergency. So we don't talk about finances very often. Specifically, we don't talk about the mess that many Canadians are in. So I'm sharing this with you again, not to be a Debbie Downer, but just to let you know that if you've been feeling financially pinched, you're not alone, right? There's a lot of Canadians going through this right now. Now, here as a founder is why this is critical for you. So in finances, both in personal finances and in business finances, we have what are called our 5 pillars of fiscal stewardship, how we take responsibility of our money management. And those pillars are the pillars of spending, The pillars of saving, investing, sharing, which includes not only philanthropy, but taxes, a form of sharing, and earning. So those are our 5 pillars. Now, what happens with most founders is we start a business, we go back to the why, we start a business with this intent of making the world a better place or making money. We think the business is going to replace that job that we had, right? Or it's going to generate even additional income above and beyond what that job was paying us. Now, unfortunately for most founders, we start our business not only financially compromised, as we just explored in that first slide, but we further compromise these pillars by doing some of these things. And I share this with love because I did many of these things. So in spending, we typically tap out our line of credit, our personal line of credit. We tap out our credit cards, or we use our credit cards for all of our startup expenses at 19.9 to 24.9%. We take out personal loans to start our business. Our savings, this was me, I actually took out all of my RRSPs to put them in to my business. Now, what I'm not going to talk about today, because we don't have the time to get into it, well, maybe a little bit, but my revenue model was broken from day one in the business. And in fact, the greater my sales in the business became, the greater my net profit deficit. So not only was my revenue model broken, but I kept wiping everything out, going, success has got to be around the next corner. Like, I'll just keep feeding it until it starts to make it. But it never had the opportunity to make it. And that's why it went bust in 2009. Under investing, we can oftentimes take out loans in our business, but put liens on property for those loans, right? So against our assets, whether, again, it's a car or a house or a building, whatever that might be. We've cashed in investments, right? So TFSAs or whatever that might look like. And then we also, after 2009, almost every lender put themselves in this situation, but we ensure that we get promissory notes, right? So promissory notes are, lenders ensure that they get promissory notes. For you, the founder, a promissory note is a legally binding agreement that says in the event that you're not able to repay the loan, in the event that the business isn't able to repay the loan, you are personally responsible. So we're further compromising ourselves that way. And then, of course, in the area of sharing, many founders are not putting aside the income tax that is going to be due every month. So remember, when you're employed, that's coming off on your paycheck, right? You don't need to think about it. As an entrepreneur, many of you aren't setting that money aside. And then at the end of the year, you get a big bill. It's like, here's your income tax that's due. We go back to our line of credit, right? Whatever it is that we can get that paid for. And then, of course, we're further compromising that pillar by our reduced earnings, right? We are not making the money that is commensurate with the value that we are actually providing the business. So actually, we'll turn to that on the next slide here, because this will say it all. So this is the state of founders in Canada right now. So we've got 90% that don't have an exit strategy for their business. Many founders don't even think of their business as an asset and something they can sell, which we'll speak to here in a moment. But get this, the average income for a founder in Canada is $59,000. $59,000. The average income of a general manager in Canada is $127,000. So these are numbers according to ziprecruiter.com. I'd encourage you to go to that website to actually put in general manager for your industry and in your specific city, and it will tell you what the average compensation for a general manager is. That is ideally where we should start with respect to what we should be earning. 87% of remuneration is not commensurate with responsibility, as we just talked about. The average founder has $35,000 of credit card debt. 7 in 10 founders, so it's 71% is the actual number, but 71% of founders in this country go under specifically because of poor financial management. They're not building a financial strategy for their business, and they're not managing the numbers and the money as it comes in. 53% of founders have a stable credit score. And I'm going to circle back on this later, but 89%. So Nail the Numbers has been around for the last 10 years now. We've worked with 11,000 plus founders, and 89% of those founders have been generating less than a 3% net profit. And this is going to be one of your huge wake-up calls as we go through this. All right. So I don't share these to scare you. I share these to inform you and to motivate you into this next step. Because it is my opinion that the failure rate, that 71%, we talked about financial management being a big issue. But I personally believe, with my background in behavioral finance and neuroeconomics, it's because of the gap. You do not have a financial goal for your business. You're not aligned with that goal. And then we don't have the plan to make sure that we can make the goal happen. This is what we call the gap. So my goal today for you, the objective is to get you aligned with actually building the goal, right? Because that's going to take some time, but we're going to go through these numbers high level. So I put this slide here. You don't need to write these down because this slide is actually going to be sent to you via follow-up. And I put this here because these are 5 questions that all of you should be able to answer in addition to the why. Like, why are you building this business? Again, for the impact, and you saw a need. But as the business owner, as the CEO of the company, you need to remember that a business to survive and to have impact, it needs to be making money, not just sales, but net profit. So I want you to think about these questions and start to ponder that this week. And hopefully by the end of the weekend, you'll have the answers. Well, you'll definitely have the answers by the end of the month, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But these 5 questions are, you should be able to address, you are building a business that will be worth what? What will your business be worth? Right? You need to have a dollar value there on that, because believe it or not, 87% of a founder's personal net worth is tied up in your business. And most of you don't see your business as an asset. If you're really going to make sure that you can get that ROI back on that asset, you need to know what your business is going to be worth and by when. The third is by having what impact. So many of you put in here, you started your business to actually have an impact, right? So what impact is that going to be? On whom? Which means your target audience. And then by providing what services. So very similar to a pitch statement, right? Impact, audience, and service. But I want you as the CEO, CFO of the company to actually know the value that you're building into the business and how much that business is going to be worth by when. Okay. Any questions on that? Can you just put a yes in the chat to let me know that you're still with me? You haven't fallen off your chair. Any big eye openers now? I think we've got the big ones coming, but just can you, 3 of you, if you're in, let me know that this is landing with you. Awesome. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Awesome, Caroline. Thank you. And one more. Beautiful. Okay. Sheena, I love it. Here we go. I love the question, and this is what we're going to look at right now. Now, I hope you can see that I'm expanding my screen, but I'm going to read through these numbers with you. And if you can expand, yeah, there you go. Okay. Thanks. I think that was you. Okay. Eye opener number 1. What is your return on investment? Here we go. This is the work you're going to have to do today. Everything else we're going to kind of run through, because I'm going to give you an opportunity for us to work together for 5 days to dial in on these numbers. But this one, we're just looking for a down and dirty. So don't make it perfect. I know there's so many founders out there that struggle with perfectionism, but this is not the time to get this perfect. So here we go. We want to know what your current investment, how much skin do you currently have in the game, right? So to do that, I'm just going to get you to high level, take a fair hourly rate. So I think $35 or $35 an hour, I forget, it comes out to about $75,000 a year. But whatever that number is for you, maybe it's higher. But that fair hourly rate, I want you to multiply it by how many hours a week you work. So you can see the example here, $35 an hour times 40 hours a week equals $1,400 in compensation, right? Easy math. So don't overthink it. Pick a fair market rate, and it is likely you put in over 40 unless you're a part-time entrepreneur getting started, which is smart, right? But how many hours legitimately do you work per week? Multiply those two, and in goes your answer, $1,400 for fair weekly compensation. Okay, everybody with me? Awesome. Okay, the next step is you're going to take that fair weekly compensation and you're going to subtract from that what the business actually pays you per week. So in this example, if I should be getting paid 1,400, but the business only pays me 1,000 per week, the money owed to me is still $400. The business still owes me that 400, right? Now, we're not talking about balance sheets right now. We're just talking about sweat equity, but the business legitimately still owes me 400. Some of you might not know how much you're getting paid every month because you're just kind of on hope and a prayer that you're getting something at the end of the month. I want you to just average it out, right? If you're getting $50,000 a year, just do 50,000 divided by 52. That's 961 bucks, right? So just make it easy right now. There's no point in trying to make it perfect because there's nothing we can do to fix the past. It's all about moving forward. Okay, can you please put in the chat that you've got those two numbers down? I'm going to wait till I get 3 before I move on to the next piece because usually I get people kind of, I don't quite get it. Everybody good there? Cliff, everybody good in Athabasca? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I need one more, rule of 3. There we go. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate it. Okay. So now what we're going to do is money's owed. We want that, you can see in this example, we had $400 per week that was owed. And now I just want you to take that 400 or whatever your number is and multiply it by how many weeks you've been working in the business, right? So how many years? 52 is 3 years? No, 12, no, 5 years. Doing the math, I'm the numbers person, but just multiply it by 52 weeks. Yes, there we go. Not 52 weeks is 1 year. I was thinking I was getting myself confused there. So just multiply it by the number of weeks that you've been putting into the business. I'm going to stop there before I butcher this any further. So 400 times 52 equals $20,900 or $800 of sweat equity in the business. That's my sweat equity. It's a good number to know if a lender ever asks you, what do you have in the business? I have X dollars of capital, but I also have about 20,800 of sweat equity in the business, money that you've not been compensated for. Okay, then the next number is your founder's capital contribution. So when you think back to all the money that you've invested, not just a big chunk of money, but you think about the websites and the domains and all the stuff that you've paid for, the logo development and all those monthly subscriptions that you've put on a credit card, all of that is what we call owner's contribution. And you should be tracking that because, again, that is money that should be coming back to you, right? That's your owner's equity in. Lenders love it when you know what that number is. So I want you just to high level it right now. But what is that owner's equity? What is that founder's equity that you have in the business? Okay. And now lastly, you're just going to take that owner's equity, in this example, 25. Right? And we're going to take the owner's equity plus that sweat equity, 25 plus 20,000.8. I'm adding them up. Total skin in the game in this example, 45,800. That's my skin in the game, my sweat equity and my capital equity, right? Those two together. Give me a thumbs up that you got that. I need 3 thumbs up, 3 okays, 3 yeses, whatever it is that you want to put in there, that you get that math. And don't worry, we get the opportunity to work together on this going forward. But I want you to realize this is a number that ideally you should be on top of, right? Month after month, because this number is going to change. Okay, awesome. And one more, give me one more. There you go. Thank you. Alextel, I hope I got that right. Sorry, appreciate you being in here. All right, beautiful. Okay, so here's the eye opener. So eye opener number 1, maybe you didn't realize you had that much sweat equity or equity skin in the game in the business, but here's eye opener number 2. Get ready for it. And I think we had the name Sheena, Snea, I hope I got that right. You asked, how do you determine the ROI? So the ROI is what you're going to do is you take your total sales, right? So again, just high level this, just think back to 2023. Maybe you know that number because you're getting close to taxes and all your numbers are getting organized. Maybe not. But go back and think about what were your total sales for 2023? What was that number? And now just write that down on on your piece of paper, wherever you've been taking notes, write that number down. That number usually is kind of top of mind. But now the second number is knowing what your net profit is. So your net profit is, just to be clear, income minus direct costs equals gross profit. Gross profit minus indirect costs equals net profit. Net profit is the bottom line, right? It is the amount of money that you're actually taking home, right? Net income after taxes and all that good stuff. But net income is the profit margin that we're really looking for right here. So in this particular example, now again, most founders don't know what their net profit is. They actually wait until 4 months after year end when the accountant provides them with their financial statements. And the founder, unfortunately, usually in most cases goes, I didn't make what I thought I was going to make. I put in all this work and we had cash flow, but there's no money left at the end. So in this example, you can see that in this company, they're making $100,000. The net profit is $2,000. So to get your ROI, all you do is you take 2,000, divide it by the 100,000, right? You take your net profit, divide it by total sales, and that gives us a 2% net profit. A 2% net profit. Okay, can everybody just throw in the chat? Do you understand that math? You might not know the exact numbers right now because you might have to go back to your software or your books or your notice to readers. So I'm looking at the chat to get that number, but I want you to understand how you do that math. So net profit includes John, you asked a great question. You asked a great question. I love it. So you're bang on. Net profit is after the founder has been paid. So this is assuming the founder on this 2,000 that they've already been paid. Now, most founders, they like to say, okay, yeah, I made a net profit of 55,000, right? Like, woo. But if you were actually to account for fair salary, like let's just say a general manager salary at 127, now you would be in the negative. So John, I so appreciate you asking that question because your net profit should be after you have been paid. Now, I know accountants have this fancy word called a dividend and they pay you through a dividend, but we want your net profit to be at least 10% after you've been paid. And here's why. This is the eye opener. Eye opener number one. You could go, and we love ATB, but we also want to make sure that our founders are fierce and financially flourishing. You could go to ATB right now, and you could have put all that equity, right? That $25,000 of capital, you could have put it into their high interest savings account. And I don't know, I think, Carrie, I hope I have this number right, because I know last time we did this was the number, it might have changed, but when we did this a couple months ago, it was 4.5% ROI. 4.5%, zero risk, 10 minutes of your time. Just let that sink in for just a sec. 4.5. You could be making 4.5% on your money, zero risk, 10 minutes of your time. And most founders, in our experience, over the 89% are generating less than a 3% net profit, putting in over 60 hours a week, and it's 100% exposed. 100% exposed, right? Okay, can you please put in the chat if that landed with you? Like, please let me know that landed, because your business is an asset, and we want it generating more than what a savings account would do for us, right? We've got to get there. I need three of you to engage with me and let me know that landed, because that is a huge wake-up call. Your business is an investment, right? You've been generating probably less than 2%. A savings account would have given you 4.5. Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Cliff and Sneha. I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you. Yay. Okay. Woo! Moving on. Now, I'm going to say this now in case I forget later. Why these numbers are so important. Again, it goes back to really wanting to motivate you to do differently in your business. I want to motivate you to actually build a budget for your business, to build a financial plan, because the gift in being an entrepreneur is there is no frigging ceiling to how much money you can make. You're not bound by anything. So I'm giving you all of this information because your possibilities are endless. It's just that most of us go in and say, "Oh, I don't really know why I'm building the business, and I don't know. I want to make a difference." But again, most of us are financially compromised, and so it's game on now. Like, let's do this. Okay, we're not going to do any math here today because I'm going to do this work with you, right? I'm going to show you what most founders do. This is not going to be you because you are going to be fierce and you're going to do this work with me. Most founders, when they're asked to put together a budget, they roughly sketch this out. So you can see the example. It's like, okay, so if we go to our spend pillar, right? In spending, we've got actually 4 different categories of spending. We have spending on needs, wants, splurges, and debt repayment. So most founders go, okay, spending on needs. What? I got my mortgage, I've got my vehicle, I've got my insurance, I've got my groceries, yada, yada, yada. They put it all together. They say, okay, it's approximately $3,000 that I need for spending on needs. Spending on wants, definitely a lot more discretionary. These are things like subscriptions, right? Subscriptions, by that, I mean your Netflix, your Crave, your Disney. These are different things. I don't want to say like healthcare, but certainly some clothing. I'm trying to think of all the things that we have now, but bank fees, I know that sounds like a need, but if the world were to end, right, what would you be taking with you? You've got these needs for sure. And then we've got the second on the line, which is the want. So maybe some other types of insurance that we have. I'm trying to go through my list of all things that we cover off. Maybe some of the health benefits. Again, you get to decide what is a need or a want, but most founders just kind of arbitrarily take all those things. They go, okay, $2,000 a month we have on needs. Splurges, this is where we usually always go over budget, and these are highly discretionary. This is usually entertainment and eating out. Again, depending who you are and what you're doing, this could be all the grooming, the haircuts, the nails. This could be some stuff to do with pets, right? But otherwise, pets usually fall under our wants or our needs, depending on those little furry babies that we have. So we just arbitrarily pick a number, 2,500 in this case. Then we usually talk about, okay, how much money do you put aside every month to service your debt? So in the lending world, we call it servicing your debt, but in our founder world, we call it making those minimum payments to make sure that that revolving debt goes away. So you put in whatever that monthly payment is. That's 500 as an example. Then you go to savings. Now, I don't know how many of you do this, but we really should be, and we should be teaching our kids this. If anything, like, let's not teach them to save to spend. Saving is about the emergency account that we can tap into. And we know from those early slides, right? Only 2 in 10 can put together $1,000. 2 in 10 Canadians, $1,000 of cash in the event of emergency. That is your savings account. So if you depleted it through COVID, now it's time to stack it up again, right? So we should be putting money aside, but most founders, actually, I put in here an example of $50. So whatever that's going to be. And then we get into investment contributions. So this could be RRSPs, RESPs, if your partner has a pension plan, right? What are you actually putting aside every month into those investments? And then sharing. So in this case, I did not include the taxes here, but what is your social responsibility fund, right? That philanthropy, that giving back. Is it tithing? Is it door donations? Is it point of sale transactions? When, every single company out there, it seems like, would you like to donate this amount of money to this hospital or this cause? So what is that per month? So most founders are just going to add all of this up, put a rough number down as we've shown here, and end up with a subtotal in this case of $8,350. Now, I want to let you know, I'm giving you this caveat because we get to do this work together through a very specific challenge that is starting on March 22nd, and I'm giving you access to this for free. This is our corporate social responsibility initiative to make sure every founder out there can lock in on their personal numbers to then motivate them to build their business budget. So we get to do this work together. Okay. So once we get that, it's interesting. Actually, I'll go back because we're like, okay, so we need 8,350 as a household. Now, if you have a partner, your partner may be contributing to that income. And so in this case, we would take, okay, well, what does the partner actually contribute? In this example, $8,350 per month, right? And then, it's 6,300 off of what that balance was, what we needed every month, which now leaves us with a balance of $2,050, right? So $2,050. So now the founder goes, okay, so I just need to contribute $2,050 to the household to make sure everything is covered. But we can't forget taxes. So we would add on 30% tax. And so now the founder goes, okay, so now I really need to contribute this $2,665 to the household. So rough math, founder math, that's usually where a founder is going to sit. Now, in our experience, having done this for 10 years, we have a very specific number. We've had over 11,000 people go through this work. What the founder thinks they need to earn isn't even close to what they actually need to earn. This is why I want to do the work together with you, because in our experience, it's a multiple of 2.3. Whatever you think you need to earn, including tax, multiply it by 2.3, because in this case, it's actually 6,000. Now, I don't want you to use that 2.3 number because I actually want you to build the budget with me. We're going to do it together starting March 22nd. So you will know with 100% certainty exactly what that number is. So this is wake up call number 2. The business has been paying you what it can afford to pay you, and when it can afford to pay you. You have to go into this differently. You have to go into this business and say, business, like, I need to get you to a point where you compensate me every month $6,130 or whatever that number is for you, because this number is your baseline. This isn't even living high on the hog. This is just taking care of your basic financial security. Spend, invest, save, share. 5th pillar is earn. We've got to be on top of that earning pillar, and nobody ever talks about that. So that is wake up call number 2. It is very likely you are not getting paid enough. You don't even know what that true number is outside of what is fair market compensation. All right, let me know if that landed with you in the chat. And while you do that, while I wait for 3, I see a question here. Do you still want the ROI to be the same if the business is an owner-operator-owned business? Profit can essentially mean increased salary. So I think I get what you're coming at here, Carolyn, but it's your ROI. Like, again, you take the salary off, and I'm going to speak to you about why that profit is so important in a couple of slides, and then that will answer your question. So I promise you I'll get there, but you'll see why that profitability, it doesn't go to line our pockets. There's another place it needs to go to right off the top. So thank you for that. Isn't a TFSA a savings and an investment? Oh, great question. Our country has labeled our registered retirement savings plan, right? We keep throwing that savings word in everywhere, and our tax-free savings account. RRSPs and TFSAs, they're tax instruments, right? That money, they're tax instruments so that you save on tax, right? Whether it's in the year that you're making the income or when you're actually cashing in, but they're actually investments. Those are investments. You put your money into the tax instrument, and then you have to tell the money where to go, and that money is going to go into an investment. It's actually an investment. So savings is very different from investing. Savings is an amount of cash that you have that you can liquidate quickly in the event of an emergency. Right? I thought the biggest emergency to hit, because I'm calling from Saskatoon right now, I used to live in Calgary, but the biggest emergency here was that if Diefenbaker Dam broke, we would have 4 hours before half of our city would be underwater, right? That was the biggest emergency. And then the pandemic hit. So, and it was interesting because the pandemic hit, and I actually went and took the vast majority of my money out of the bank account because I thought, what's going to happen to our financial system? So I took all that money out, and then the joke was on me because nobody was using cash anymore. They were all using tap. So anyways, money that you can access quickly is what savings is. All right. Okay. Awesome questions. Thanks, everybody. So that's wake up call number 2, is knowing what the business needs to pay you. Wake up call number 3 is your retirement shortfall. So again, this is not for the faint of heart, but I'm going to show you the tools that we have for you that we're going to get to do this together. Again, quick math, you can see all the numbers here. I don't want to go through quick math with you here because it's not going to be real, right? And if it's not real, you're not going to be in alignment. Your goal won't be real, so you won't be aligned with making that goal happen because you'll just be like, I think the number is sort of. But here's what I want to talk to you about when it comes to retirement shortfall. As we talked about, we've got a $13.4 trillion deficit. We know that the vast majority of founders are barely making enough just to scrape by, let alone setting aside that investment money that's needed every month to take care of their retirement needs. So this is another little bit of a ramble here, but investing, the number one purpose of investing, first and foremost, is to make sure that we have enough money, we have the financial security come the time that we want to retire. That's goal number 1. Goal number 2 is once you've got that number set, then you can start playing in the market. You can become a day trader and get all your screens up and start trading money back and forth. But the first mandate of retirement or of investing is to make sure those retirement funds are taken care of. Okay. Now we know most founders do not have that in place. So in the work that we get to do together, I want to show this to you because this is pretty cool. You might have to bring up your screen a little bit, but this is the retirement needs calculator that I will be giving you in the Wake Up Call 5-day challenge. So in here, what becomes really fascinating, you'll see that this calculator, you'll be able to put in all of this data. You'll be able to say, okay, my current age, my age of retirement. This is actually a really good exercise to do with your partner over a bottle of wine, like take an evening and actually start to piece this together. So you're putting in all of this data, current age, age of retirement, years to pay out. And I've put this in here. Unfortunately, I'm not showing you the actual tool because it's hard in this software to go back and forth in Excel with sharing my screen. But I'm so excited for you to see this because once you get this data in here, you can see down here, it's also asking you about the rates that you're making on that investment, as well as inflation. Remember, ding, 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 inflation, it went up to 8.4 not too long ago. You will see that once you get all of these numbers in right here, as you move over here, you're going to get to put in how much money would you like to live off every year during retirement. This calculator is actually going to account for inflation, and it's going to show you that if you think you need 100 now, at 3% inflation, if you're 45, you're actually going to need, right, 165,000 per year. It's crazy. It's all here. This is the tool that a lot of financial advisors use, but don't necessarily show you behind the curtain. You get to use this right now so that you're in control of your numbers. That is a huge takeaway that I want you to get from this work, because this is what we do at Nail the Numbers. We put you in control of your finances. We put you in control of your numbers, and then you work with your accountant and your bookkeeper as partners in your financial outcomes. But you need to take the ownership. You need to take the driver's seat on it. So in this example, when we come down here, you're going to put all these numbers in, and in the challenge, we get to work on this together. But this calculator will tell you exactly what your shortfall is. And in this case, if we need $100,000 to live off of in our retirement at 62, and we're 45 now, with inflation and what our investments are currently performing at, right? Our current shortfall is going to be $976,000. That's even after we take into consideration the assets that we currently have. So we're going to get to do all of this step by step by step. Now, there's a really important reason. This kind of comes back to Carolyn's question about ROI and profitability. This 976, and I want you to put it in the chat for me so I can see it. If you weren't setting aside that investment money every month, and in this case, in this calculator, you can see that if you wanted to make that 976, you would have to put in 26,419 a year divided by 12. That would be a $2,201 investment every month that you would need to contribute. If you don't contribute that, put it in the chat. Where else can you find $976,000? Where else could you find that? I'm surprised nobody's typed in lottery ticket. Oh, exactly. You're reading my mind. You're reading my mind. Where else can you find $976,000? Thank you, Dawn. Yep, it's your business. Your business is an asset. So why we do this work, twofold. We want you to increase the value of your asset because you should be making an ROI short term, which is that net profit, right? Quarter after quarter, year after year. And Caroline, I'm going to come back to what you do with that money, right? Because that doesn't necessarily line our pockets right away, right? So short-term ROI is that net profit. Long-term ROI, again, it's still that darn net profit. Because what's going to happen is that in valuation models, valuators are going to look at, yes, they'll look at the future cash flow possibility of your company. They will definitely take a look at your assets, but then they will also take a look at that net profitability minus founder salary. That's the first thing they do because they know most founders aren't making the money. Like it comes off anyways in evaluation. So then they take that net profit and they multiply it by a very specific number that is specific to your industry. So typically in bookkeeping, in financial services is usually 1.5. So the net profit times 1.5 equals your purchase price. In the tech industry, it is the net profit times 10 equals your purchase price. Your net profit has a significant contribution, right, to the value that you will receive in exchange for selling your business down the road. And I have to say, in the work that we do, that is one of the happiest moments that I get is when a founder is saying, you know what, I'm actually selling my business. I never thought I would be able to sell something, but they're selling it and they're getting money. And it might just be 250,000. It might not be the $10 million exit, but $250,000, right? It goes a long way to making up that retirement deficit. Do you know one of my colleagues, Allison Anderson? I don't know if you're familiar with her name. She started up a tech company. She's doing amazingly well, but it's called Succession Matching. And she started it out of Saskatchewan, but headquarters, I believe, now in Alberta. I think she lives part-time in Edmonton, splits up her time between Edmonton and New York. My point in all of this is to say that she has told me that for every 20 buyers that are out there looking for a small business to buy, there's only one business that's ready. Is because they don't know what it is that they're selling. They don't have their financials together. They don't know the value of their business. They don't know what the actual, assets are in their business, their goodwill. They haven't put it together. So this is the work that I love doing with founders because you should be selling your business. I don't care how small you are, right? And actually, I'm not a big fan of the term small because you're anything but. You are the fiercest people I know in this world, right? Okay. All right. Can you give me three? Can you let me know, three people? Let me know that landed with you. Those are the three wake-up calls. The ROI that you're currently making, right? How much the business needs to pay you, and your retirement shortfall should be your long-term goal for the business. Give me three. Three. Yes. One, two. We need one more. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. So now, actually, I'll just quickly show you this. But in the challenge, you're also getting the debt repayment calculator. There's five calculators. But this debt repayment calculator, I love it. You might hate it. It's a kind of want to vomit moment. But you put in all of your debt. You put in your balance of your debt, the interest that you're charging or the interest that you're being charged on the debt, and then your minimum or the monthly payment that you're currently making, right? We go back to that example. So in this example, you can see that the debt that this individual is carrying is about $38,000, almost $39,000 in debt. Their current monthly contribution to debt is $1,070. This calculator, so in the work that we do together, I want to get you out of debt in 36 months or less, right? This calculator will actually show you, if you scroll down to the bottom, you can see that in this case, and again, I can't play with the calculator, so I can't show you the before and after, but we want this founder to now make monthly payments of $1,500 to get out of debt in, at least here are 34 months. And what you can't see is the total interest paid on this new plan is $11,000. Previously, when they were only paying $1,070, the interest they had paid on that debt of $39,000 was closer to $21,000. Right? It's these want to vomit moments where you pull all the numbers out from under the carpet and you actually see it for what it is, and it motivates you to do differently in your business. Like, game on, let's go. All right, landed hard. I hope it landed hard with love, right? Because that's what we're here to do, right? To just motivate you into a very different space. Okay. This, again, you'll get the deck, so I'm not going to go through this in detail. This doesn't even show the budget. The budget was too big for me to put in the actual slide deck, but it's going to show you your comparables. So it's going to show you the before picture of what your financial habits look like. You can see the current monthly snapshot, right? Overspending by 17% every month. And then when we build the budget together, you are going to have what Dave Ramsey calls a zero-based balanced budget. Means for every single dollar that comes in, it will have a very specific place to go, either on spending, debt, sharing, investing, or savings. So you're going to balance your budget every month. Okay, so that's the work we get to do together. I just wanted to show you. I wanted to kind of tease you with those calculators because they are worth their weight in gold. So again, this is my gift to you. Just please, please, please do this work with me. We've got a challenge. It's kicking off on March 22nd. Here's the QR code. So just scan it right now. So you've got it. Again, it's going to be in the follow-up notes. It's called the Wake Up Call 5-Day Challenge. We're meeting every day just for 25 minutes. That's it. And we're eating the frog and we're getting it done first thing in the morning. Boom, done. We have the challenge and we're good. So you're going to scan this code. It is going to get you into the, or sorry, you're going to scan the QR code. It's going to get you to the Wake Up Call page. When you go to enroll, put in this promo code EPIC2024. And that is our gift to you. So you're not going to have to pay the $90. When you get in, you're going to get all of, well, you'll actually get it's a startup guide. So make sure you download the startup guide. The startup guide is going to give you the schedule. The startup guide is going to give you the Zoom link, and the startup guide is going to give you the link to access the academy where all the tools are. And we'll make sure to follow up with you that you're good and you're golden and you've got everything you need. All right. I'm going to come back to this QR code in a moment so that you've got it. Thank you, Laura, for putting that in. Okay. So the last thing I want to share with you, I would never leave you with all this information and say, okay, good luck to you. Now that you know what you need to build a $934,000 business, good luck with that. This is the work that we do in Nail the Numbers. We call it the Financially Fierce Formula. And this is where you actually build your business budget, but you actually build it backwards and bottoms up. So very similar to what we're doing in the Wake Up Call Challenge with you. But now we take your business budget, or now we take your personal budget. Now that we know what your goal is, now we can actually build a business budget that gets you to achieve that goal. I love it. It's brilliant if I do say so myself, but again, we reverse engineer the numbers. So we start with the net profit. Now I wanted to come back to a question Carolyn had, because she's like, well, that net profit that goes into our pocket. Net profit, just so you know, in the work that we do, we want to get you to at least 10%. 10%, sorry, 11.5. 10 is for you, 1.5 is for CRA. Okay. So we want to, where am I going with this? Net profit. Here's why it's important. Because net profit, Carolyn, is when we make that net profit, it actually, we don't spend it because this is what a lot of founders do, right? Oh, there's extra money. Let's go. It actually goes onto the balance sheet into a category called retained earnings. Retained earnings on our balance sheet is equal to emergency fund. It is our savings account in the business. Those 5 pillars of fiscal stewardship still apply in business. And that net profit is what builds up our emergency fund in the business. Just like in our personal finances, we have to get our emergency fund to a specific number, whether it's 6 months of operating, whether it's a year of operating, whatever you want that to be. And then once we've got that taken care of, then we can either pay ourselves extra money or we can reinvest in the business. We can start to be our own investor, our own financier in the company. So we don't deplete the net profit. We actually take it over to the balance sheet. So in the work we do, we just reverse engineer. I'm not going to go into big detail here, but this net profit, we're going to start you off at 11.5. We're also going to work with you to better understand what your goal needs to be and where your net profit needs to get to if you want to capture that money out when you go to sell it, right? To make up that retirement deficit. Then we do indirect costs, including team and personnel. This is where we budget for your stronghold number. This is what goes in here. And if it is less than a fair compensation, right? So we definitely, step number one, what is the fair market value of compensation? General manager salary, 127. But if it's above and beyond that, we need to make sure that the business can get you into that position. And I can explain that when you come into the challenge. Then we actually go up here to key revenue streams. So we get really dialed in on what are your top 3 to 5 revenue streams, because most founders even have, or either have 35 revenue streams and they don't focus on what really needs to be sold, or they've lumped everything into one big bucket called sales. And when we do that, we can't figure out, what is actually selling. Where are we generating the vast majority of our revenue from? Then we move into here, step 4, which is direct costs. And I love this. Really, between revenue streams, direct costs, and price point, these 3 pieces actually make up what I call the Bermuda Triangle of business budgets. It's where profits go to perish and dreams go to disappear, because this is where you are losing all of your net profitability. And if I had known this, right, back in my previous business that went bust, I would have exited a millionaire. The more money I made, the more money I lost because I was losing it all in the Bermuda Triangle. So this is where we want to spend time with you. Direct cost per revenue stream, materials, inputs, subs, and employee labor. It's called contribution labor. So we get to do all of that together. And then we actually set a profitable price. I'm just going through this now with you. We talk more about this in the wake-up call. I just wanted to share with you that we've got a plan for you once you get your personal budget done to make sure that we can make those numbers happen. And I just want to show you this because this is an actual example of a client that we worked with at BDC. So no names here, but we do a lot of work with BDC clients across the country who the first thing I usually get from a BDC account rep is, we've got a great company for you to work with. They're about 20 million in annual revenue. I'm like, let's look at the numbers. And sure enough, there's the bottom line. We're looking at less than 3%. So it doesn't matter how much revenue you make. The vast majority of founders are sitting at that 3%, if not less than that as a net profit. So you can see in this example, when they first came to work with us, 4.1 million, negative net profit, right? Negative 14,000, and they weren't even paying themselves. In most cases, so over here, they actually locked in their net profit of 9.3. This was in their first year that this was their strategy. Their indirect costs went up. We actually got them budgeted for salary, right? So the indirect costs, and this is going to happen for most of you, your expenses, your operating expenses will actually probably go up when we start budgeting together because you've been bootstrapping and you haven't been thinking about what are the true costs necessary to keep this business running smoothly and efficiently. So the indirect costs went up. We established the revenue streams. We got really clear on what those were, the direct cost per revenue stream. And if you can just take this away, their sales went down. They went from 4.1 million to a plan of 3.8, and that actually got them paid, and they ended up with $353,000 in net profit. The year after this, they were sitting at $900,000 in net profit. You're losing all of your money in that messy middle, revenue stream, direct cost, and pricing. I would put money on it, right? So that's the work we want to do with you. Okay, so next steps, here's what I'm asking you to do. Please, por favor, sign up, enroll in the wake-up call. This is where we're going to get your personal budget built. And when you enroll and you get in there, if you have any problems, we'll definitely support you through it. Between now and March 22nd, there's actually a stronghold checklist. You've got a couple of weeks to start collecting all of your financial information because we're going to build that budget together. We're going to make sure that you've got those numbers nailed down. And then if you want, right, your step number 2 is now let's build a business budget together. So that we'll talk more about in the wake up call. If you want more information on the Financially Fierce formula, the QR code is right here. It's a $2,990 investment, cheaper than most accounting bills at the end of the year, but ROI is huge on this. We have a cohort that is actually starting on April 8th. It's going to be our second cohort of the year. You're assigned a personal accountability agent. So not only do we get to work together in our coaching, but then you have your own agent that will meet with you every week to make sure that you're dialing in on the numbers. I'm going to leave it there. I don't want to do a hard sell on it. I do want to do a hard sell on the wake up call. There's really no reason why you shouldn't be building your personal budget. Please, please, please get that done. All right. And the last piece here is if you would be so generous, we would love it if you would leave us a Google review. Social media is the worst for me. So that is my discomfort level. But we're building it. And so we're late to the party. So if you would be so kind as to leave a review, just your honest opinion of what you got out of today's wake up call, we will send you a $50 gift certificate that you can apply to. You obviously don't need to apply it to the wake up call because we're giving that to you for free. But if you want to come into the Fierce formula, you can use it there. You can use it to any of our upcoming challenges as well. So I'm putting that there for you. I would love a Google review. Again, just honest. I'm not telling you what to put out there, but let me know how this workshop landed. Okay, I am going to close it. Well, I'm going to close my presentation down there. But I do want to come in here and I see lots of comments here. So are the wake up calls possible when I am further along in the venture journey? What is the right time to do this exercise? I love that you asked that. Most founders will, so everyone should be doing the wake up call. Everyone, regardless of what stage you're at the journey. I finally did this when my partner, my ex-husband, he actually left. We separated, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a single mom now, and I've got all of these expenses. And so I did my wake up call. When I did my wake up call, when I did my stronghold budget, I had to earn $35,000 a month to take care of all of the debt that I'd been left with. Now, I got the house in return, so there's no qualms there, but that was a big number for me to come up with. You can't create something if you don't know what you're creating. That 35, it took me 9 months to get there, but I got there, right? So you need to know. So good for every founder at every stage. The Financially Fierce formula, again, even if you're a startup, it applies because the number one feedback we get from founders when building their business budget is, where were you 10 years ago? I would have saved myself so much frigging money, right? Like think back to that other example where they were hemorrhaging that negative 14% every year and then turned it around. So the sooner you do this, the better. Okay. What am I getting? The link on the PDF after you register doesn't work. No, JK, tell me it isn't so. I'm not sure what's happening there. Courses, the wake up call challenge. Okay. If you've registered now through our website, I've got you. Your email is there and I'll make sure that you're in the academy. We'll just do that manually for you. I apologize for that. But we'll make sure that you're in the academy and that you've got all the tools that you need. So thank you for that heads up. I really appreciate that, JK. Can I attend the next wake up call? So yeah, we have 3 wake up calls a year. Our next wake up call isn't going to be until August. I think it's August 23rd or August 20. The date escapes me right now, but absolutely. Okay, you certainly can. What I would probably recommend is that you get in this wake up call because at least then you'll be in our system and you'll get notified when the next one is, or just fire me off an email if you want to do that. And I'll make sure to add you to the next one. My email is right here on the screen as well as my numbers. Okay, Rochelle, what time zone? Oh, I love that you're asking this. So our time zones change for me You change, I stay straight. I'm going to say 8:35. 8:35 Pacific is what I'm going to say, Rochelle. Don't hold me to that. Yes. So we put in 2 time zones. We put in Pacific and Eastern because we support entrepreneurs across the country. It's me that always gets messed up because I don't change. Everybody else changes around me. But whatever time is in there, there is, I think it says 8:35 and then 11:35 Eastern. So that should be good to go. Okay. I'm sorry the dates aren't great, Annika. But yeah, 25 minutes a morning. Not great, but if you can be there, fantastic. If not, you'll have the academy, right? You'll have the academy to actually follow along with all the steps and with the tools. So definitely register, get in there. And if you can't get it all done on this first challenge, you can always get on to the next challenge as well, right? Again, it's free. Sometimes we get founders doing this a couple of times. We definitely get all of our founders doing it at least once a year because they circle back on that stronghold every January to make sure it's dialed in and tightened up because a lot has changed for them. All right. Oh, Carolyn, I love that you asked that. I'm kind of torn on that because we do a recording. We don't like to make, because when people know that there's a recording, they don't show up on the call, and that's where all the value is on the call. So it's we will make the recordings available if you need it, but it's not our preference to let everybody know that the recording's out there because again, they fall back into a habit and then don't join us on the call, whereas where we have all the great conversations. All right. Okay. I think, Bantu, did I miss any pressing questions or did we get them covered?
No, I think we've got everything covered. You did such an awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, and I think there was one more comment around just spring break and vacation at that time during the wake up call.
Okay.
But I think you said that there's going to be 3, or there are 3 sessions. So just catch the next one because I thought this was very, very helpful. I was also just taking notes here. So thank you for sharing that knowledge with us and walking us through everything. And I really also just like the debt repayment calculator that you showed. I feel like not just for entrepreneurs, but for anyone, that is so useful because sometimes we don't even want to look at the debt that we have. But in order to make a difference or make a pivot from what we're doing, we really have to understand the numbers. And based on some of the data that you shared around 71% of founders closing their doors because of poor financial management. I think that's the first step there. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. Thanks, Bantu. I'm glad it landed. And thanks to all the founders watching the call. Thanks for showing up so powerfully on the chat with me and letting me know I'm not alone and that nobody fell off their chair. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And yes, thanks to everyone that stayed and was super engaged. Yeah, the chat was going off all the time. So thank you for that. So my colleague Laura has posted a link to our feedback survey in the chat. So we would really appreciate it if you could take a minute to respond to the survey before moving on with your day. So so we know that your thoughts for today's session. And also remember to keep an eye out within the next few days, which will include the recording for this session, follow-up materials, and registration links for our upcoming events. And we do have a few things coming up. So on March the 12th, we have an in-person session in Calgary titled "You're Hiring Your First Employee, Now What?" And then on March 21st, we have a virtual session focused on defending your business, practical steps against common scams. And on March 26th, we have an in-person session in Calgary on Barter Boost, exploring entrepreneur exchange platforms. So super exciting stuff that we've got coming up. And make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at the ATB Center or atbentrepreneur.com to stay up to date on all of our events and to receive relevant business articles. Thank you again for joining us today. We truly appreciate all of your time, and Tanya as well. Thank you for today, and we'll see you soon. Have a wonderful day.